Now we're going to take a look at a little bit of the problem set 10. And we had just talked about making major scales, and the problem set begins with you doing some major scales. So for G major, we need G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I just wrote out the letter names. And then, it says descending. Sorry about that. G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G. Now, if I think about the pattern of whole steps and half steps, I can use that to get the proper notes for the scale. So we go whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. That means it has to be an F sharp. And half for G. We click return and we're correct. Let me do F major ascending. Okay, so again, I would start by just writing out all the letter names. G, A, B, C, D, E, F. And then think about the pattern of whole steps and half steps. We've got whole, whole, half. We need a B flat to make that a half step. So now we have whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And that is our F major scale. Okay, so now let's come here. I can skip the listening. You guys can handle that. So let's talk about creating tonic and dominant chords. Okay, so if we figured out the C major scale is right here. It's just letter names. There are no sharps or flats. It's just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So the tonic triad in C would be the first note C, the third note E, and the fifth note G. So the tonic triad would be C, E, G. We write them out one after another. It collects it here. We can always hear our chord if we want to hear what the major scale sounds like. Okay, the dominant in C major would go to the fifth note of the scale. So C, D, E, F, G. G would be the first note. And then this is on a line. We go to G, A, B, C, D. There's our G major scale. It's our dominant, in C major. Okay. In the previous video, I had figured out the D major scale, and we realized that that scale was D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. That means that tonic in D major would be D, F sharp, and A. And that's correct. Okay, the dominant in D, D, E, F sharp, G, A, would start on A, and then we would take this note, whatever kind of C is in the scale, and whatever kind of E, and that would give us the answer. So that's section. Okay, so let's talk about voicing. This is for voice writing. Okay, so we're writing for, think of a choir. You'll have high women's voices, which are soprano, lower women's voices, which is alto, higher men's voices, which is tenor, and lower men's voices, which is bass. These four parts also correspond to strings in an orchestra, like violin 1, violin 2, viola, and cello, and so on. Okay, so here's what we do for this. This one is kind of nice because they give you a key signature, so you don't have to think about the scale. Okay, so let's do this one here, because C major is a simple place to start. Okay, so we have C major. C major, if you remember, is just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. No sharps, no flats. Step number 1. Okay, so this tells us C, and we want the 5 chord. That's the dominant. That is the chord built on the 5th note of the C scale. All right, so I'm going to choose the bass first, because this Roman numeral tells you what note to write in the bass. If we're in the key of C, we've got C, D, E, F, G. G is the 5th note of the scale. I'm going to put it there as my bass note. Okay. You have a choice. You could do G there or G there. Either one is fine. Okay. I'm going to do it here. It just has a different sound to it. Then for step 2, I would do the soprano. That's the top voice. Okay. Now this chord, this 5 chord is G, B, D. We have a G already in the bass, so let's choose one of the other notes, either B or D, to put in the soprano. I'm going to choose B. So there we go. So now we have the bass has G, the soprano has B. We need to fit, still we need a D in this chord. That's the 3rd note of the chord. Okay, it's the 5th, but it's the final note we need to add into this. So we need a D. I'm going to put the D in the alto. So there's a D. So right now in the bass we have the root G. In the soprano we have the 3rd B. And in the alto we have the 5th. So these are all the notes of the G major chord. But you can see this little ghost note here. We haven't given a note to the tenor yet. So the tenor, we can just choose one of the notes of the chord. I'm going to do an extra B to it. Okay, so because there are 4 voices, 4 parts, but only 3 notes, one of the notes has to be doubled in the chord. You can hear this. It sounds like that. So we've taken C major scale. We go to the 5th note of the scale here, 5. That gives us G. We go up G, B, D. We put G in the bass, choosing the bass up here. We choose another chord tone, B or D, to put in the soprano. We put the remaining note, D, in one of the inner voices, the alto or the tenor. And then we choose to double one of the notes in the remaining voice. And this gives us a voicing of this chord. It sounds like this. Okay, I could have voiced this differently. I could have done a G down there, a D up there, and a G here. This is also correct. Here's a G, D, B, and the G is doubled. Has a very different sound than the previous one I did. How about if I do one more of these? We've been looking at D major a bit, and we know the scale was D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Do you see how this key signature right here gives you the F sharp and the C sharp? Okay, so D, the 1 chord, means this is the chord built on the 1st note of the D scale, which is D. The entire chord is D, F sharp, A. So let's take one of those other notes, say the F sharp. I'll put it in the soprano. This is an F sharp, but we don't have to put the sharp on it because it's here in the key signature. Okay, now we also need an A to complete our chord. I'm going to put that in the alto. And then in the tenor, I'm going to do another D. So now we have the notes D, F sharp, A, and these are the notes of the 1 chord in the key of D. we have D in the bass. Here we have F sharp in the soprano, A in the alto, and then we double the D in the tenor, and it sounds like this. All right, next one. Here we are, this is D major again, and this is having you just write two of them together. Okay, so all we're doing is we're writing the one chord using the procedure we did above, and then we write the 5 chord using the same procedure. Okay, so we had just done D major. The one chord was D, F sharp, A. So D, I'm going to do a different voicing of the chord this time. I'm going to do this one. Okay, so I put D in the bass, then I put A in the soprano, F sharp in the alto, and then I doubled the A in the tenor. Now we're just going to go to the 5 chord in the key of D. So you count up to the 5th note of the scale, D, E, F sharp, G, A. So this is going to be an A chord, and it's going to be A, C sharp, E. So I'm going to choose a C sharp to put here. And then we've got A, C sharp, I'll put an E here. That's our complete chord. And I'll double the A in the chord. Okay, and now we have a complete D chord with a doubled A in it to a complete 5 chord with a doubled A in it. And this is what it sounds like. Okay? There are actually many principles on how you connect one chord to the next. We're not worrying about that right now. We're just writing one chord, and then we're writing another chord in 4 voices. All right, hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if you all need any more explanation. Of course, always send me a text or email if you need anything. You can contact me through Canvas as well. All right, thank you.